This guy is my favorite guy on Twitter. He blocked me. Armand Domaluski, co-founder of Yimbies for Harris, goes, honestly, it's pretty gross that this guy's supposed to be a liberal, by the way, okay? Donald Trump is like wrecking the country, and his administration has detained myself for my political perspective that is supposed to be in line with his worldview, like a lot closer to his ostensible worldview than, you know, any number of different right-wingers that are actively talking about how they should, you know, how he should be hunted for sport, you know? And yet here he is. Honestly, it's pretty gross that a guy who said the U.S. deserved 9/11 routinely gets glowing press coverage because he's hot, I guess. He still watches your stream, by the way, as far as I know. It's just odd for a liberal to get this ass mad about, once again, another progressive socialist content creator getting looks from mainstream press. It's not even, that dude blocked me and I never tweeted at him or mentioned or ever followed him. Yeah. It's also weird for him to get this ass mad, but not only this ass mad, but also mad in this direction. Because he's not like, wow, this guy is a NIMBY. You know, this guy, I can't believe GQ magazine would offer glaring, glowing coverage to a guy who insert thing he has a disagreement with me over. He's using the Steven Crowder technique to be like, this guy said U.S. deserved 9/11, which, by the way, Taylor Lorenz goes, he said correctly that 9/11 was a direct result of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. This is just an objectively correct fact that no serious person should dispute, especially given what we know about that era. Bullshit. He said literally, America deserved 9/11. Immediately goes, I don't agree. I don't care about the context. I don't care about the nuance. He said America deserved 9/11, and I'm crying. Okay? I'm crying about it. That is a moral judgment of the 3,000 plus people who were murdered that day. It's not bullshit. Watch back the clip and use listening comprehension. You want to talk about innocent people being murdered, then you have to look at both sides. The more you know about what the U.S. has done in the Middle East, the more you understand why many believe the U.S., in air quotes, deserved 9/11. If you refuse to acknowledge the asymmetry in deaths between the innocent people killed in the U.S. on 9/11 versus the innocent people U.S. slaughtered in the Middle East for decades, then you're just not a serious person. Even families of the people killed in 9/11 acknowledge this reality. The difference is I would never say that the people of Iraq deserve the Iraq War. Hassan never said anything about the people of Iraq, nor did he say anything about the people of America. Iraq is also not an imperialist global superpower, nor was Iraq tied to 9/11. Again, this guy, and I repeat, is supposed to be a liberal. So why is he behaving like this? Because a lot of people that say they're a liberal have the exact same right-wing perspective when it comes to American foreign policy. And they despise people like myself for routinely railing against it. I watched a really good video on this, as a matter of fact, because a lot of people say, a lot of people misunderstand when I say Democrats and Republicans are aligned on a lot of very important issues that pertain to our day-to-day existence here in the United States of America, and also a lot of issues that pertain to America's, global impact. And I think this guy does a very good job of basically breaking down that exact sentiment. I don't know who this guy is. The woke bloke, he says, it's about the issues you don't even think about. #politics, #leftist, #liberal. I reposted it. He says, dear liberal, Democrats and Republicans are the same. Now, for the record, I almost completely agree with this person. You watching a video is not a matter of fact ESL. Did you forget about the plugin that auto-blocked all blue checks marks when Elon bought Twitter? Yeah, that plugin blocks me too, technically, because Elon forcibly gave me a blue check mark because I'm a power user on the platform, so I'm cursed with it myself. And there's no way for me to lose that blue check mark, unfortunately. A lot of your haters don't even seem to care that much about the 9/11 shit. Anyone angry is either performative or misunderstood. Oh, no, it is. It is a totally performative anger. And I'll give you a great example of this. Bill Maher, immediately after 9/11, said, those dudes that did 9/11 were brave. You know what's not brave? Lobbing hellfire missiles from thousands of miles away at innocent civilians. That's not brave. But those guys literally got in a plane and drove the plane into the towers. That's brave. Nobody ever brings that up when talking about Bill Maher. Why doesn't anybody bring that up when talking about Bill Maher? Because nobody gives a shit. Bill Maher said that after 9/11, like literally the week of 9/11, he said that. He lost his job because of that. It's been downhill for him ever since, as far as like spicy takes goes. I've seen people who have made 9/11 jokes but act offended when they want to shit on you. Exactly. It's all fake bullshit. I will also add one other element to the 9/11 Hassan said America deserved 9/11 moment. I'm an American citizen. And one part of this conversation that always seems to get lost is I said we totally deserved it. As in, Me, America, like me, an American citizen. We totally did, dude. That was my follow-up. And yet, nobody ever seems to think that I am an American when they're talking about this. I wonder why. You see what I mean? Because every single person that like intentionally misunderstands what I'm trying to say does not see me as an American citizen, does not see me as one of their neighbors. They see me as an outsider with a dangerous, scary ideology that wants to destroy America. This kind of attitude used to be reflected openly by right-wingers. My entire career, I have heard this from right-wingers. You hate America? Get the fuck out. Oh, you love terrorism? Get the fuck out. Now I hear from liberals as well. This is a major problem. I don't think the average liberal has this kind of attitude. I don't think so. I don't think that the average liberal that you see, the average normie liberal that you see in the wild, has this kind of attitude. I don't think they feel this way at all. But a lot of the commentators do. And those commentators online get their notes from the Democratic Party. So I feel like over the course of the past couple of decades, I think the Democratic Party, like the politicians, the apparatus, and their communications has gotten more right-wing, has gotten more racist, especially as it pertains to defending foreign policy. Anyway, dear liberals, Democrats and Republicans are the same.
That leftists say, this is the one that pisses off liberals the most, because it just seems so unfair, right? There are objective differences between Democrats and Republicans that go beyond the red and the blue, and I will credit that to you. If we had a Kamala Harris presidency right now, we would not be trying to tariff our allies. We would not be trying to extort corporations and universities. We would not have passed the big, beautiful bill. We would have a president that is nominally pro-choice. And you know what? More than anything in your personal life, at minimum, you would feel more comfortable. And there are other issues that I will grant you that Democrats and Republicans have differences on. These are objective truths. But here are some additional objective truths. There are
major differences between the Democratic Party and the way that the Republican Party operate. It's true, objectively. However, there are very important points that pertain to everyday American existence where the Democrats and Republicans are completely aligned with one another, and we don't even think about those things because we just take it for granted as the norm. And I think he's going to describe it.
There are huge areas of our political life that Democrats and Republicans have reached consensus on, and you don't even think about. Consider the economy. Democrats and Republicans agree that we are going to have a free market capitalistic economy. And while we'll fight over what the social safety net should look like, with Democrats wanting subsistence level and Republicans wanting starvation, ultimately at the end of the day, every single problem is going to start with a free market solution, which is how we approach
neoliberalism. What he's describing is the uniparty sentiment on market solutions, the public-private partnership. Democrats and Republicans both believe that, okay? There is no alternative vision in the Democratic Party. And as a matter of fact, ones who suggest an alternative vision in the Democratic Party are cast aside as outsiders, routinely purged from the ranks, the Bernie Sanders of the world, right? If you are this type of person, if you say, no, we need socialization, we need a higher degree of socialization, which doesn't automatically even mean you are a socialist. You could be a social democrat. We need market regulation. We need higher degrees of socialization in public services that need to be controlled by the government. If you were to make that argument as a social democrat who is still a goddamn capitalist, okay, you are literally cast aside or co-opted by the party apparatus to stop pushing on these agendas, to stop pushing on these issues. That's just the truth.
Approach healthcare, another huge area of our lives. Harry Sisson, the future of the liberal Democratic Party, says that it is unrealistic for Democrats to pursue universal healthcare. The kid's like 20 years old. What a vision. And Republicans agree with him, just like they agree with Democrats on the military. We are going to spend almost $1 trillion per year on a military that we do not use to fight wars and instead use to prop up a genocidal state, something that Democrats and Republicans also agree on. Because there are some things that just rise above partisan discourse, right? Like our national story. This country was founded upon justice, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness.
I do read a lot of what the Democrats say as like, we need to find consensus as this. They just want people to shut the fuck up. They want the Republicans to be in line and to recognize that they are also on board with a lot of the same shit, and that, we should have reasonable discussion, reasonable discourse on how many trans people should be eradicated from public life, how many immigrants should be purged. We're both on board with immigrants being purged, mind you. Like, it's gonna happen. There is no alternative vision here. We're not saying the counterbalance on the Democrat side is not amnesty, conditional amnesty. The counterbalance on the Democrat side is, we're going to kick out immigrants too, but like, we want 30% less immigrants to be kicked out. You know what I mean? Whereas the Republicans are like, we got to kick every brown person out, not just the immigrants, but also like American citizens across the board. So like, that's not a real, that a consensus has been established on first principles, a consensus that unfortunately revolves around complete falsehood. This isn't to say don't vote for the Democrats. I'm not saying that, okay? Because like, people immediately get mad. They go, realistically, who else am I supposed to vote for if not the Democrats? I never said don't vote for the Democrats, chatter. I said hold them to account, wield them like a weapon. Make sure that if you have a policy-first approach, a lot of people personally believe it's just team sports. It's not. We have to force them to do the right thing. We have to force them, unfortunately, to behave like a real anti-fascist, anti-Republican party. And it's clear that they won't do it because, as this guy correctly points to, is something I say all the time. This is a perfect summary of the way I describe events. There's consensus on a lot of issues that there shouldn't be consensus on.
And leftists look at all of this and they think it's bullshit, but they also add it all up, and it's about 80% of our political life. Leaving around 20% is the area of acceptable debate between the parties. So if I told you that something was 80% the same as another thing, would you say that they're actually the same? Probably not. But you could get away with saying they're basically the same. I think out of anything that leftists say, this is the one that pisses off liberals the most, because it just seems so unfair, right? There are objective differences between Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah. Nobody in here, unless they're just like utterly delusional, thinks that there aren't any differences whatsoever between the Republicans and the Democrats. Like, they are one and the same. I do not believe this. I say they have incredible similarities on issues that pertain to everyday existence that up your life in a very meaningful fashion. And if they were to actually focus on those differences, or the areas where there is consensus when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to Israel, when it comes to endless amounts of money going into the militaries overseas, when it comes to a public-private partnership being the only solution to these issues, whether it be housing, whether it be healthcare, whether it be college. These are all genuine problems that pertain to your everyday existence that the Democrats and the Republicans actually are in agreement on. The disagreements that they have are basically like, how do we get there?